Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so in this demonstration for the toolbox project, we're going to be focusing on one of the three main parts for constructing the box itself. We have the box, well, which is the majority of this thing, the handle itself to hold it and carry it, and we also have the name tag or the nameplate. We'll be working on making and constructing the nameplate in this demonstration. So within the following steps, I'm going to take you through the entire process, how to get a perfect nameplate just like you see here. So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, so the first initial step is some layout and design work. To make it easier on you, I decided to make these nice fancy little templates. So you can't exactly use this one because it's a template and you're supposed to trace it, and whatever's here you trace directly on top of your piece of metal that I give you, the little blanks. So first thing you need to do is take the template, put it on top, and well, obviously you'll need one of these little name tag blanks. Excuse me. Put it on top, line it up. The first dimension is already done for you, which is they're already 1.5 inches tall. The second dimension, there should be, the finished plate will be 4 inches long, but obviously my blanks are a little bit longer, which that's perfectly okay. We're going to be cutting them down a little bit later. You'll see. So line it up in the center, or close to the center, up and down, left to right. We're going to take this tool right here, which is known as the scratch awl. Scratch awls are in the metalworking cabinet right behind me. It's the left cabinet if you're facing the front of my room. It's meant for scratching lines in metal. Yes, we could use maybe a pencil or even a marker, but it's a little bit easier to have this because pencils and markers, they can rub away over time. So trace the outside. Make sure you're holding this nice and firm so it doesn't go anywhere. And trace it around just like a big pencil. Trace out the holes on either side as well. Make sure you don't let it move, or else you'll have to reposition it and probably start over again around the outside. And after you get it traced out, you're pretty much done with the first step. Alright, second step, we have some more layout and design work to do. So first initial thing we have to do is measure the halfway point. So right now as it stands, our piece of metal is 1.5 inches long. So the halfway point, left to right, would be basically around 7/8 or even closer to 3/4 of an inch. So what we're going to do is basically mark out a line at 3/4 of an inch. So take a ruler here, make a small little tick mark at 3/4 of an inch. A small little tick mark on the other side at 3/4 of an inch. Take your ruler, line up both of those lines, those marks that we made earlier. Might be hard to see, but you'll get there. And once they're lined up, you'll strike a line the whole way across, left to right. Just like that. Perfect. Alright, then the last and final step we have to do is, well, of design work, layout and design work, is draw a straight line on the bottom here. Right now we're going to consider the line that we drew at 3/4 of an inch from the top, and below it is going to be the bottom. So we're going to want to use this tool right here, which is known as the marking gauge. The way marking gauge works, that's meant to scratch straight lines in metal. It makes things a lot easier. You can set them to any different distances that you want to. With this little turn dial, you can move the table back and forth, and there's kind of like a point here that makes the scratches over the lines. As it is, it's already set at 1/4 of an inch, but that basically means that you don't have to do any adjustments. Leave it as is. So the way these work, this little platform rides up against the edge of the metal, straight across just like that, and this point makes the line. So put it on the edge of the table. Let me move this out towards me so you can see a little bit better. I'll scooch back. So it overlaps the table. Point it away from yourself a little bit, and just slowly pull it back towards you. And it scratches a straight line right on the top of your metal. You might have to do it once or twice just to get it perfect. Try and make it as straight a line as you can, okay? So once you're completely done, it'll look something like this. Kind of hard to see, but you get the idea. Alright, next step is basically drawing some holes out, getting this thing all labeled, and cutting all the pieces out. So you'll see that in just a little bit. When you're cutting this thing out, there's a few ways you can do this, a few different tools you can use. We have aviation snips here. We also have 2 different sizes of tin snips. We have large and small. They all do the same job, but it really doesn't matter which one you pick. Pick one and just go with it. The only difference is obviously with these two, the size, and then this guy right here, he's spring-loaded. So if you prefer one over the other, it doesn't matter to me, it all works. So what we're going to be doing is cutting out the outline that we formed earlier with the template. So take a pair of tin snips, aviation snips, whichever ones you prefer. Cut directly on that line that we formed earlier. We're just cutting the outside shape. So cut around, just slowly make your way around. Go slow. If you have to, you can turn it into multiple cuts. just to be easier, and form your way around. Just go slow, like I am now. Okay, after you get one side, throw the scraps away, recycle them in the recycling bucket, and then you repeat the process and do the other side. So that's one way. I did it all in one cut. The other way that might be a little bit easier is if you do the flat cut straight across like so, and then you go back through and do your small little curve cuts a little bit later. Go slow, it's kind of tricky. This doesn't always like to cut perfectly around a corner, just like that. All right, almost there. And perfect. So after you're done with that, you have all of your edges pretty much cut out for the most part. They're roughed in. They're not exactly perfect. We have to finalize them off with some emery paper. So let me grab a piece back here. Emery paper, sandpaper for metal. So make sure you don't scratch the top of the metal. We just want to take it and smooth over those edges and get this thing rounded off a little bit. So round off all those edges, get them rounded over so there's no pointy sides on it. You can go the whole way around. Just get the edges. Hold it in one hand, it works just fine. Flip it around, do the other side, and repeat the process for all four corners. Just like that. And the aluminum is soft enough that it's a very quick process and it comes right off. Just like so. Perfect, looks good to me. So the next process we're going to do is mark out these two holes that we have to drill a little bit later. So for that, we're going to need a center punch, and please use a center punch. Don't use a scratch awl. Scratch awl is meant for scratching lines in metal. Center punch is meant for marking where you drill. Never hit this with a hammer. This one, you can hit away at it all day. I don't care. It's made out of metal, so it won't break. This one is metal and wood. You could possibly break the handle, so don't hit it with a hammer. So take a ball peen hammer and a center punch lined up in the center of the thing that or the little template piece that we drew earlier. One nice little baby tap right there, one side. Repeat the process on the other side, just like that. All right, after that, next process, what we want to do is on the bottom, let's say if we flip this over, the line on the bottom where we drew, that was about a 1/4 inch length. We want to basically put the year on here. So we're going to take some of these stamps here, and we're also needing the hammer again. And we're going to put the year in here for whatever year it is that you're doing. So for me, since it's 2017, I'm going to put in here 2017, so I'll need a 2, a 0, a 1, and a 7. So when you're using these stamps, it's important to keep in mind that if you want to use them correctly, follow these next few steps closely, that we don't do anything backwards, upside down, or by accident. So let me find the 2 here. Oh, perfect. So with the 2, and with all my steps, stamps in general, they have this little groove on the one side. The little groove should always be facing towards you if you want to stamp this thing and have it come out perfect. If it's facing away from you, it'll be upside down to the one side, or the other side, it'll be sideways. So make sure it's facing towards you, or put your thumb over it, and it works just fine. So we want to try and keep this centered. So keep it near the center. Don't put it out at one end or the other. Make sure it's near the center, so we'll have like a 2 and a 0 on one side and a 1 and a 7 on the other side. So start, hold it nice and still, get it nice and straight. Take the hammer, 1, maybe 2 taps, just to make sure it's indented into the metal. Okay, we need a 0, which let me find that. Oh, there she is. Line it right up next to that 2. Repeat the process. You might have to do it a few times to get it nice and indented. Okay, a 1. Right next to it. Try to keep it evenly spaced, straight up and down. Nice little tap. And last but not least, to finish it off, a 7. Wow, this is coming out really good. Happy with it. Perfect. So right there, we got the year on it. Kind of looks like a dog tag in a way, doesn't it? So it says 2017. Might be a little bit difficult to see. Let me see. Pull it right in that angle right there. Perfect. So the next step, what we want to do is drill this thing out on either side, and then we're going to engrave the top here. So I'll show you that in the next step. So the next thing we're going to be doing is drilling holes through it. So we need 2 holes, 1 on either side. The holes are an 1/8 inch in diameter. So you remember the holes that we've been pre-drilling with the catapult project, pre-drilling for the screw so it doesn't split the wood. It's the same exact drill bit. So they're over on the mini drill press table if you want to use those. So the drill itself, make sure everything's chucked up nice and tight, that you have it go in the forward position, and it's on the highest speed setting. This drill, for example, has 2 speed settings, 1 and 2. Right now it's on speed setting 2, which is exactly how you want it. So the lines, or not the lines, the marks that we marked out earlier with the center punch, we want to mark those down and basically drill the hole right through. So hold it down with one hand, take the drill, put it over top, and notice how I have this special drilling block or drilling plate, the piece of wood behind me. That way I don't drill into the top of the table. Make sure you have one of these. I don't want to see you drilling into my tables by accident. So squeeze the trigger as fast as you can and make sure you push down. And when you see wood, that means you're the whole way through. That means you stop, pull it back out, repeat the process for the other one. So here we go. One side, perfect. And the other side, perfect, just like that. And be careful, sometimes there's some sharp edges or burrs on the other side that could get you. All right, now, just about there. We just have a few more steps to go. So next thing we want to do is on the top here, since it's a nameplate, we got our year on there, we're missing the name. So this tool right here is my Dremel engraver. I have 2 of these. So what we're going to do is plug this guy in and literally carve or engrave our name into a piece of metal. So these things are really nice because you can engrave in just about anything, wood, metal, plastic, you name it. In this case, we're going to be engraving into wood. But please don't engrave your name or whatever symbols or anything onto anything but the piece of metal that you see here. As far as settings, it's already set at 3.5. That's a perfectly fine engraving setting, so leave it as is. On switch is on the bottom. Hold it just like a pencil and write your name just like you would a pen or a pencil. Very easy. Try to keep your name somewhat centered and write as neatly as you can, okay? So I'm going to turn it on, put my name on, show you exactly what it looks like here. So here we go. Turn it off. Now, when you're doing this, it's important to keep in mind that you're holding it down. If you just try to do it free-handed and not hold it, it will start to move and buzz around on you, okay? So do that as neatly as you can, engrave your name into it. So you have something that looks just like that. Now we have 2 more processes left. We're gonna add some kind of decorative edge or border around the edge here. And then eventually after that, we're gonna get this thing all shined up and ready to go. So, here we go. So this machine right here in front of me is known as the bead former or bead roller, whichever you prefer. So it's going to put like a nice, neat decorative edge on our piece of metal. So the way this is going to work out, first you need to come over to it, and this little knob on the top, the yellow knob, turn that counterclockwise to take these 2 rollers and spread them apart. Then the next thing we need to do is figure out where we're going to be doing this. So what I prefer to say is keep it so the edge of the metal is right at the edge of this roller here. It kind of makes like a U shape. Put it at the edge of that U, and we're going to feed it through it. We're going to do the top, the bottom, and each side. So when you do this, first thing we need to do is take it down just a little bit until the top roller kind of comes just a little bit down into the bottom roller, about so. And then on the right-hand side here, we take the handle and roll it through slowly. And actually, you want that to overlap a little bit over top of the U. I'm sorry. Don't have it directly on the U or else it'll try to bend it down in like that. So a little bit over the edge, try to keep it nice and straight. Feed it through and just make sure it goes through nice and straight and even, just like this right here. Try to keep it nice and straight as you can, not crooked. So once you go through one side, go through, do the other side, keep it nice and straight and even, and make that nice, neat, decorative edge. Okay, almost there. And then do one side and the other side, just like that. Bring it down just about like a quarter turn. Repeat the process one more time. Get that thing nice and formed out. We're making a nice decorative edge, excuse me, just like that. Now we're going to repeat the process until we have a pretty decent size edge formed out on here. Make it look nice and neat. It's a really cool and custom way to make things look kind of like your own. A really cool way to make it look like your own name tag. So adjust it just a tad bit more, quarter turn. Repeat the whole entire process. Oops. Looking with the wrong way. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Feed it through. Just enough that you have a nice even like slot or groove down through the one side, just like so. And through the other side. Perfect. Like that. And I'd say we're just about finished here. One small little adjustment. Feed it through once more. One through that side. And the other side. Repeat the process. And if you have to make adjustments, you can always back up with the handle, readjust yourself, and repeat the process. Keep it nice and straight. And bingo. Looks like we got a pretty fancy looking nice name tag here. So at this point, loosen it up a little bit for the next person, and you should have your name tag, or name plate. So it looks something like this. You have these nice decorative edges. It's a really cool way to make it look flashy and kind of like your own. So it's a really cool way to make it pop and look a little bit different, stand out. So after this, the next step would be basically taking it back, shining it up, and getting it ready to attach to your toolbox. So once we're at this point, we have everything pretty much all formed out. Everything looks all nice and neat. This thing's looking pretty darn good if you ask me. Our name on there. We have our nice two little decorative edges, top and bottom. We're ready to finish this thing off and shine it up. So you're going to need some steel wool, which is basically a bunch of fine fibers of steel in a big ball. I have a bunch of it in my tool cabinet on the left up here, the metalworking cabinet on the bottom shelf. So it's kind of like sandpaper for metal, except it's a lot finer. It's like extra, extra, extra fine. So what we're going to do is take it and shine up our nameplate. So right now, and what happens over time with aluminum, and that's what our nameplate's made out of, it oxidizes. So it just comes in contact with the air and it changes colors. So it'll get like a dull finish to it. So over time it will start to change color, which isn't exactly the best to look at. So the steel wool kind of gets rid of that oxidation and shines it up, makes it look really nice. It doesn't really give it like a mirror finish, but it gets pretty darn close. So after you shine it up, get it all nice and neat. You only need to do the back of it, or the front of it. You don't need to do the back because the back obviously will be against the toolbox. You won't be able to see it. You're pretty much all done and wrapped up. So once you're done, your toolbox name tag should look just like this, and you're pretty much good as gold. So congratulations.